Welcome everybody to the Determined Podcast. My name is Pasta Guy, and here with me today, as always, is Cupcake, and something special. Our new co-host, Goddard Boy, is here, mainly because he kept showing up to these, and we thought, hey, might as well add him on.
Whoa!
Yay! Thanks for having me.
You're welcome. You're welcome, Connor. And here today with us is one of the big ones. It is Zarla for who?
Hey, what's up?
Woo!
Yes, Zarla, who, for those who don't know, is the creator of Handplates, a very popular Undertale comic. So yeah,
the best Undertale comics ever made.
Right up there with like Dogs of Future Past and.
Flatter me. I'm like sorry, my cat is on my lap. He's just.
Aw, kitty.
Ow.
If I go out, like don't mind me. It's just
Cat.
he's pawing at me. So.
Aww.
Cat crashed the stream.
Yeah.
I mean, cat is very important, so.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's the real guest that we have on today.
Yeah. Screw this. Like made hundreds of pages of comic and stuff. Yeah.
God, I
Real
cannot believe
star.
how many pages there are. Just the other day, somebody was like, it's been like 200 comics to get this point. I was like, it hasn't been 200 comics, has it? And then it's like, oh my god, it's been like 190. I can't believe
Holy
this.
heck.
I don't know how this happened.
That's fantastic.
That's not counting like spin-offs and stuff.
Yeah, that's not counting all the little random side comics and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Because God knows there's a billion of those too.
It's a good
Yeah.
point.
I'm into something. Let's just keep
Mhm.
creating until something stops me.
I think we all know how that feels.
Yeah,
distracted.
we're all creative types here. I mean, Goddard Boy runs his own Goddard Boy runs his own comic series called Delta Experiment. You should check it out.
Yeah.
It's pretty freaking great. At least I think so.
Pasta writes
Ow.
fan fictions, and I'm confused. That's what I am.
Oh.
She does fan art. She writes fan fiction. She makes comics. It's a lot.
I attempt to make comics. I haven't made any. I attempt to get started making them.
Still in the drafting phase, but
Yeah.
that's enough about us. We should get into the handplates questions.
Yeah, so, before that, Zarla, is it okay if you do a little introduction for those who may not know who exactly you are and stuff? I mean, I think everyone here knows what Handplates is, but we're not sure if they know you all that well.
I guess the face behind Handplates is
Hmm.
really not a terribly interesting one. I've been around on the internet for a really long time. Some of the things I've made seem to have gotten fairly wide reach, which has always been kind of a surprise to me. I made a video that some people might have seen called Stamp on the Ground. It made an older one called Move Your Dead Bones. Both of those seem to have gotten around a little bit. I animate stuff. I usually I write stories. I draw fan art, basically. I've been in and out of like various different fandoms over the years, and then I came to Undertale, and I just settled there for like a couple of years, and just focused on that for a really long time. And then it just kind of, I don't know, like various stories just went in my head, and then Handplates is the one that actually ended up sticking around for a very long time, which is
Awesome.
a little unusual. I've never actually done a long-term comic project like Handplates, or at least never gone this far into it. I've started like a lot of projects with a, very, what's the word I'm looking for? Very enthusiastic or hopeful, I guess, optimistic
Mhm.
views of what they could be, or, the really grand visions of what I could create. And that you get distracted and you never finish them. Like stories of the grand
that rings
scope.
too close to home. Just
Understandable.
Yeah,
So
and
many
a whole number of
ideas. Will I
works in
complete any of
progress.
them? I don't know.
Yeah,
So,
but sorry, go ahead.
oh yeah, no, I was just gonna ask, what kind of inspired Handplates? Did you ever think that it would be this big of a project, or was it kind of just?
Absolutely not. Uh, I I completely stumbled into Handplates by accident. I didn't like have any long-term plans for it. I just kind of happened to it. If I recall correctly, like what inspired it, so I was just looking up like Skelebro's art and stuff like that. You know, people were reblogging things. And I ended up coming across somebody did some art. I think of like the brothers in like one of those tubes of mystery goo with Gaster looking on.
Mm.
And I think another one like did a sketch of you know, Gaster, you know, having them in a vat or something like that. Or like it implied that he created them. Like there was only
Mm-hmm.
like one or two bits of art I saw that suggested the idea that he created them. And I was like, that's a really cool idea. And at the time I was also toying with the idea that the two brothers were actually like two separate parts of Gaster, that like Gaster
Right.
split into two halves, and like you know, there was that idea which I also thought was cool. And
Mm-hmm.
so I had both those ideas. Both those were like sitting in my mind at that point. And then the lab experiment one ended up sticking around a bit more because like way back when I was a kid, I used to write a lot of stories about people getting stuck in science, like evil labs, and getting experimented on by evil scientists, and
Ooh.
sometimes getting superpowers and such. You know, it's a fairly standard trope. So the idea of being able to explore that again, like as something else, was really appealing because that's not a trope you can pull off in a lot of settings. Like there's not a
It's
lot of
true.
places you can mess with
Right,
it.
yeah.
But I remember I was talking to my friend Bardik one night, I think, about the general idea, and I was thinking of like, I guess we were talking about like if they were experiments, they'd have to have something to mark them as experiments. 'Cause why would you do the trope if you don't have that? And but then I was like, no, you can't have like tattoos or any kind of marks or anything like that because they're
Mm.
skeletons. They have bones. You can't do anything like that. And then I think and I was like trying to figure it out. I was like doodling in my sketchbook. Then I was like, wait, you can have a solid effect on a bone by drilling a plate into it.
Mm.
Like
Oh.
that will stay on somebody forever. And so
Yeah.
then I was like, that's it. And then when I figured out you could put a plate on somebody, I was like, then I can draw a comic about that idea. Well, I'm done. And then I wasn't done. I wasn't done
Little
at
did
all.
she know. But
Yeah.
yes.
Little,
Like
little did you know, it's just you.
yeah, like
Little
even
did you
like
know that the next couple years would be like, yeah, you work a lot on this now.
yeah, I was completely blindsided by it. Again, it was very much kind of an accident. I really thought it was just kind of a fun idea to toss out in a comic and then move on. But of course, like you'd think with like my history, because I've done that with like a million different ideas where I go, yeah, this I probably won't do anything with this, and then I end up making a gigantic production out of it. I've done that multiple times. So you'd think I would have figured that would happen again with hand plates, but I didn't somehow.
Mm-hmm.
Every
Yeah,
time I'm somehow surprised when it happens again.
yeah. Also, you probably weren't expecting like freaking comic dubs of it to get like over 1 million views a lot of the
No, I
time.
didn't. Like prior to that point, I was into some fairly small fandoms. I think like I guess the biggest one was probably Ace Attorney. Like and even then in Ace Attorney, I was into some very small side characters as well. Only the characters from like Case 2-4 that
Mm.
nobody cares about. And then I was also in a Metal Gear Solid for a while, but that was before that period. But like those were probably the biggest things I was ever into. So I was kind of used to being in a pretty small pond, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
And people seem to like my stuff in those ponds, but you know, I didn't expect a lot of attention. And then I did some general Undertale comics. I did the one uh, with Papyrus' special attack with the bone words that scroll by, and that blew up, which shocked me. Like, 'cause I'd never gotten that many notes or that much attention for anything at that point.
Right.
Blew my mind. Well, I mean, there's stamp on the ground, but that's different. But like, in terms of like being like on Tumblr, especially like I was totally unprepared for it. And then people did dubs of that, and then I did Six Bones, and people did dubs of that, and you know, and then there was just an
Oh
enormous amount
dear,
of
six
attention.
bones.
Yeah,
Yeah, six.
6 months came around. 6 months came about like right around the same period as like Handplates. I think I have sketches of Six Bones on the same page where I was doodling the first Handplates comic, like
Mm-hmm.
right around the same time. Um, so
That's
you know,
awesome.
yeah, it's weird, you know. Like I was not expecting it. Like
Right.
the whole arc that I seem to have had in the fandom has been kind of a huge surprise to me at every turn.
Be
Are you
just
you
looking
say that you're
everywhere,
happy
just
with
being
the
like, "Oh, hey, I inspired that. Wow, I
Yeah.
inspired that."
Yeah, it's amazing, really. Like it's all every time I see something that somebody's made that's inspired by something I made, it's such a cool feeling. I save all of it. I have
Mhm.
every piece of fan art or any fic that anybody's ever written. I save all of it so I can look at it and be like, this is amazing. I can't believe I inspired somebody to make this.
Oh,
Blows my
Aw.
mind every single time. I have all the dubs saved too.
heck yeah.
I just hoard them in like folders on my computer.
Uh, so yeah, a little fun fact about me. Before a couple days ago and stuff, I had never actually read through Handplates. I'd only watched like the first couple minutes of some dubs and all that.
Yeah.
And every time I would mention that, Cupcake would be like, or just make some like annoyed noise at me. And
A lot of
so
people got into it through the dubs. It seems
yeah, I
like.
know, and it's it, and a lot of the and yeah, so when we actually got the chance to interview you, she was just like, "All right, Pasta, you got no excuse." So me, Connor, and her just read through the entire 191 pages. Yeah, thanks for that, by the way. Posting one
Yeah.
more page for us.
It was awesome.
Oh yeah, that's right. I posted the last page like on Wednesday, didn't I?
Yeah,
Yeah, that's right.
and it's
So my scale
awesome.
of time is all messed up.
Personally, I've been on board the hand plates train for pretty much right after I finished Undertale.
Oh yeah,
So
That's same.
it's a
because it
really
was
big.
early.
Oh yeah,
I was in on the ground floor mostly.
that's
I think I was
that's
like a month or
awesome.
two after it got released, but I was there from pretty early on.
Yeah.
That's so cool.
Being a part of the Undertale fandom like back then when it was like first like really just exploding and stuff, that must have been freaking insane.
Mm.
It was pretty bonkers. I mean, like to be fair, I usually kept to my own corner, so I didn't like watch a lot of it in real time, but I did see trends kind of rise and fall sometimes, which was
Mhm.
an interesting experience. But you know,
Indeed.
like things just built up steam and stuff over time, and I was like, wow, this is getting really big. 'Cause I remember the first bit of like Undertale fan art I did, I was like, you should play Undertale. I'm sure nobody's heard of it, but it's a little indie game. You might like it, because I really thought it was gonna be like Off or Ebe or something like that, where it's a fun game. It's got a fandom, but it's not a big deal. And then Undertale turned into a very big deal, like way more than I ever would have anticipated.
I mean, I'm
Like,
literally staring. I'm literally wearing a Deltarune T-shirt, and I'm literally staring at 3 figurines of the characters, 3 high-quality figurines of
yeah,
Frisk, Tutorial, and Lesser Dog on my desk. So
yeah.
yeah,
It's like amazing to think about like how far it came because I really didn't think it was going to happen for like a little indie
Mhm.
game, that kind of thing, but it just really it resonated with people quite a bit, and
yeah.
that just carried it quite some distance, which is really pretty cool.
Absolutely.
It's always kind of neat when there's like these out of nowhere success stories like that where you have like these random little small things that manage to hit a chord and then that just carries them to like extents that you wouldn't really expect otherwise.
I mean,
Hmm.
people are always like trying to like see what the next big thing is and like prepare themselves and like and try to get on the hot trends and stuff. But you really can't really predict that sort of stuff, no matter how hard you try. I mean, if we go back, like to say something like Minecraft and stuff, if you said to someone like 5 years before Minecraft came out, it's like, hey, one of the biggest games in the world, probably the biggest game in the world, is going to be a building simulator that's in the style of 8-bit graphics. Nobody would have believed you.
Yeah, these things can't really be predicted. They just kind of have to, I think naturally come to be, naturally come into being, something like that. Like
Hmm.
they have to just let happen on their own. If you
Yeah.
try to predict it or play it, it's not going to work, at least for
Yeah.
the most part.
Yeah, it's a lot like I've described this before in other podcasts, but with like YouTube success or just any type of social media success, uh, yeah, there can be like a steady climb of like viewership going up and up, but if you want to really just actually like make this like a career or something, that's all up to chance, buddy. It's gonna be like one day you make videos that you only get like 200 views, and the next day somehow one of them gets like a million out of nowhere just from what they just from what the algorithm or whatever just feels like spewing out to enough people.
Yeah, going viral is never an exact science.
Mm-hmm.
It just
Yeah.
kind of happens.
Yep.
So, a lot of the Handplates comics were written or drawn out of order, especially towards the beginning. What are your thoughts on like that that sort of workflow, and what are the kind of challenges and advantages of kind of making comics out of order and then filling in the gaps kind of as you go?
Well, like as I mentioned, I kind of stumbled into Handplates. I really wasn't
Uh-huh.
expecting it to be like a huge story. So, I had in my head, I had the general scenario where it's like they're in a lab, bad stuff happens to them. Like that's the scenario. And then whenever I got like an idea for a specific event, I would just be like, I'll just draw that event. And, I didn't think
Mm-hmm.
about putting it into any kind of coherent narrative. I was just like, I think it'd be sad if this happened. So I drew a comic
Wait,
book.
let's see. It
Yeah.
just like you just have a dartboard. Let's see how Sans and Papyrus can suffer today. Just
Oh
pulls a
Yeah,
no.
dart.
exactly. So whenever any kind of scene jumped out to me, I just drew it. And I was like,
Mm-hmm.
it's just set in the setting, take it for what it is.
Fair.
And I'm trying to remember like exactly I'm trying to remember exactly when it started to come together. I think like a few of them I began I think the healing one started kind of followed after the color key one. I think they were like just small ones that were starting to connect to each other. Where it was
Right.
starting to kind of come together. And around that period, like an old friend of mine I'd actually lost contact with, ended up coming back in contact with me, and she was like, "Oh, I really love this setting of yours. I love this story, this handplate story." And I was like, "Oh, wow, that's great." And she was like, "I really want to. What do you think's going to happen? Like, wouldn't it, like, do you have a story worked out?" And I was like, "Well, not really at this point." And she was like, "Well, I think it'd be kind of cool if this happened, or maybe you could tie these things together." And I was
Hmm.
like, "Yeah, you're right." And so me and this friend, her name is Mal, um, we
Cool.
actually sat down and we started brainstorming just the general idea of what would happen. Like they were just small ideas where it's like, what would happen if Sans pulled gas during the beams and, got his
Right.
face exploded? And she was like, that's a great idea. And then what if this happened? I'd be like, yeah. And then what if this happened? And, we began spinning these things together. And
Mhm.
like Mal was very enthusiastic. She was my biggest cheerleader about this. And the cool thing is that we began working out stuff past that point. And we were like, what happens, when they get out? What do you think? And she was like, they should go
Hmm.
with Asgore. And I was like, yeah, that's a good idea. And so
That's
gradually,
so
just
cool.
through talking to her, I ended up coming up with the entire framework for the whole story. Like we basically worked through the beginning all the way to the end. Like she knows everything that happens. Like
Hmm.
she knows all the way to the very end. She's the only one who knows the end. And so it's really cool to have somebody you can talk to who actually knows the
Yeah.
entire story, so you don't have to worry about spoilers or anything like that. And she helps me work out like when I get stuck or like when I have troubles working out or logistical problems, like when Flowey started to work in, like she helped
Right.
me work that out too. She's played a huge part in it. When I actually finish the whole story, I want to really give out like a full shout out because her influence is a really big thing for it. But
Right.
once we got the skeleton all together, and then I began to start piecing the
The
pieces together, and I
skeleton, so to
began to,
speak.
yeah, exactly, putting the organs in the skeleton, you could say.
Ooh.
And then I began to kind of, then once I got the idea of what's going to happen, then I realized like I had these little disjointed pieces of comics that were just kind of scattered around because they weren't made with any kind of over like an overarching idea. I just made them. So then I had to kind of make a structure around them to fit them into those places correctly, and which I could do. And to an extent, it was an interesting challenge on its own.
Hmm.
There are some problems with it though. Like there's some things I wish I could have smoothed out a little better. There are just some things that are a little inconsistent where I had to shift one thing over like a little further just so like it was logically coherent, or
Mm-hmm.
there's foreshadowing I wish I could have done better, like, and of course the art style also jumps like back and forth between older ones and newer ones, which I feel like might be a little jarring for a new reader, but it was kind of fun because it was kind of like a low stakes way to keep myself interested in the idea. Because
Right.
sometimes if you get like like a big scope for your idea and it's huge and it seems too big sometimes to actually do. When you're
Mm-hmm.
like it's too much, too complicated. I have to work through like a million things just to do this idea. I can't do it. So, but if you're just in there being like, I just want to make this sad scene, I'm just gonna do it. It's much easier
Mm-hmm.
to just get in there and actually make something. So,
Right.
to an extent, there are
Um,
some benefits because it's less. What's the word I'm looking for? There's less pressure, I guess. But if you're
right.
making a long-term, complicated story that all ties in together, it's not helpful at all. That makes things a lot. Well, not a lot, but it does make things more difficult in the end.
Right. That makes
Right.
sense. It's really cool that you're talking about how you have this kind of other person to bounce ideas off of and come up with the framework. I do the exact same thing with my comic with my sister, and so like I know how that feels to have someone
Yeah,
that knows how everything works, and it really really does help a lot. So it's
yeah,
just really cool.
it's great to have a person like that. It really helps a lot with building a story and working out ideas. Bardic in the chat also helped me with another Ace Attorney story I was working through, or he
Yeah.
just
Mhm.
worked out the whole plot for a whole novel, basically like that, just going back and forth on ideas. It's so much fun to do that. If you can find somebody you can do that with, it's the best feeling in the world,
It's
because
true.
ideas just come so naturally. They just flow really well. Everything seems fun and exciting because you get to impress each other with new ideas you have. It's great. It's
It's
one of
very
the best
true.
things you can do as a creative person, I think, is to have somebody you can, work with, or at least have fun with.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
I have a similar situation that got our hands, but with my twin brother, Adam, who's actually been on this podcast before, and he and yeah, when it came to like I've written like a full complete Undertale AU that's actually complete. Yeah, freaking weird. Someone actually finished an AU.
Uh-huh.
But yeah, anyways, it was a lot of the time with that. It was just like only when I couldn't think of a way out of it myself. That's when I would go talk to him and stuff. But with this new project I'm working on, it's called The Light at the End. It's a Deltarune fanfic and stuff. Uh, uh, I made it a lot more open to be like ask like him and stuff to be like, hey, do you think this idea is good and stuff? And I've already basically told him the whole plot. Like I had the whole general idea for the plot already figured out and stuff. And I remember like we were like going back and forth on ideas the other day. Uh and he has a whiteboard in his room and we were just drawing stuff on there and all that. And once we were finished with that, it was an absolute mess. And I was just like, you know what would be funny? I just sent it to both uh Gotter Boy, and Cupcake, and I believe a few other people, and it was like, okay, if you can figure this out, you can basically crack the code for the whole story, and it was
I
just
tried
fun.
my best.
Yes, and I'm gonna say you got a lot closer to the lot of people that I showed that image did. I'm not gonna say I'm not gonna say how much, but you did.
That's great.
Yeah. Honestly, it's like when it comes to like making story notes and stuff, as long as it makes sense to you, it's like it doesn't fucking matter what it looks like. Like my brother the other day was just like he's working out his story right now, and he was just like, Aaron, I'm not sure about the formatting of this document and stuff for all my ideas and stuff, and I'm just like, it's just an ideas page, bro. It doesn't have to look all that good. But yeah.
Mhm.
Anyways, moving on to another question. But first, gotta point out that we're almost up to we got 20 people watching this on YouTube and 9 people watching this on Twitch. Thanks y'all for joining in, and And the next question is, this is definitely one of the most basic ones. We ask this to freaking everyone who comes on here, and honestly, we probably should have asked this sooner, like when we were talking about like, when we were talking about like the early days of the fandom. But Zarla, how did you yourself get into Undertale? I mean, the first fan art you drew of it was like basically like telling people hey, you should check out this game. It's like kind of small and stuff, but you'll probably like it.
The first fan art I did was a bunch of Temmies with a bunch of Mr. Saturns from Earthbound.
Oh,
I love Temmie so much, but like I got into it because a friend of mine, Jazz, she was playing it, and I vaguely heard about it at the time, but it wasn't very big. Like it was still pretty early, and she was like, and I guess she came to me and she was like, "This game is really fun. You'd probably like that." And I was like, "All right." And then she came back to me later and she was like, "No, you have to play this, but you can't look it up. You have to play it blind because you cannot spoil yourself for the ending because the ending is Earthbound level, and
it's true.
you cannot spoil it for you. You have to go into it blind." And I was like, well, that's the ringing endorsement because the Earthbound ending was one of the most it was one of the most impactful endings I've ever think I've had in my life. Like it's really
Totally
hard for me to
agree.
think of an ending that hit me as hard as Earthbound, especially because when I played it, I was a kid, so it just absolutely blew my mind. So her being like, "Don't spoil the ending, or else you'll ruin it," and I was like, "Okay, I can't." So I went into Undertale 100% blind. I had no idea what the characters were. I didn't even know what they looked like. Like when Undyne took off her helmet, I was like, "Wow," because I didn't know what she looked like or anything. And so like I went through the pacifist ending and I was like, that was really fun. I really liked those. I really liked all those characters. That was a lot of fun. What happens if you start killing people though? And she was like, there's a whole route if you keep doing that, by the way, but I don't know if you want to do that. And I was like, well, now I have to do it. The thing is, because she just said
Exactly.
she said it is different if you do it, and like just that was enough. It's
Right.
like, well, now I have to see what happens. And she was like, it's very hard. And I was like, I don't care. I have to see. And that curiosity, it shows up in Handplates. Like that
Absolutely.
intense, unquestioning curiosity shows up in Handplates. It's actually one of the inspirational things that showed up in Handplates early on, but I can get into that at a different point. But I
Interesting.
also didn't look up anything about the murder run. Didn't look up anything about it. I didn't even know what was going to happen. I was just like, she told me something would happen. And she told me also, you're done with an area if the music changes. But that was all she told me. Because she didn't want me to have to do it more than once.
That
So I
makes
was like,
sense.
all right. So I just went through the whole thing. And I had no idea what was going to happen. I didn't see the Sands battle coming at all. Like, whole thing was a huge surprise. And it was great. It was so good. And I'm really sad that a lot of people don't get to do that.
Right.
Like, it's
such
like
a great way to experience the game.
yeah, like the spoilers for it are so pervasive at this point. Like I think it's really difficult for anybody to play it blind, which I think is a real shame because I think the full impact of the game is best if you go into it completely blind. That was how Toby intended it, I think.
Earthbound's ending is some big shoes to fill, but Undertale manages to do it.
Yeah. Like the ending, there's nothing that'll quite be the ending of Earthbound. There's nothing that can be quite be the ending of Undertale either. Like they're different by the nature of their games themselves.
Right.
So. But they're still very powerful, I think.
Yeah. I'm just scared though because since Undertale was the basis for Undertale's basis was Earthbound and stuff. I'm thinking, okay, with Deltarune and stuff, does that mean the basis of that is going to be Mother 3? And if
I would not doubt it.
Entirely possible.
And if you know anything about Mother 3, you know that game is sad.
Oh yeah.
It's very dark.
I will say
it's still fantastic and it has a lot of hilarious moments to it and stuff, but it is just wow, you would not expect that type of game to just make you just want to not want to do anything else. It
is the masterpiece.
Yeah.
Zarla, when you played through Undertale, was your character named Radek? Is that where the Radek name comes from? Well, tell us a little bit about the decision to kind of portray the fallen child and the player as kind of, it seems like your own sort of OC.
I wouldn't really call them an OC necessarily, but there's a whole lot of complicated things going on with that. But Radic is just a name that I use whenever I play any game. Like any save game I have, I call Radic. Any character I play
Okay.
as, I call Radic. It's the same name I use for any game I play. Always uses that name. And
Interesting.
so, of course, when I played Undertale, I named the character that. And then at the end, it was a whole intense thing. With the fallen child at the very end, when
Hmm.
they mention stats going up, things that you've done, the success that you feel from doing this kind of stuff. That's me. That's Radic. And for me, because I'd used that name for so many games,
Right.
that had a huge impact. Like to me, that had a huge subtext to it that I don't think might have been there for somebody else who had used a specific name for the game. But for me,
That makes sense.
that made that meant a lot more to me than I don't know. It might have meant to somebody else. They used a different name. And
Right.
uh,
Is that what
the
led to the idea of using that name in the comic as opposed to kind of the generic Kara, Chara?
it's that choice is very deliberate. Like
Hmm.
the kid in the comic is very specifically named after me, or
Hmm.
named after that character, because it is that playthrough. Like the playthrough in Handplates is not anybody else's playthrough. It's very
Right.
specific to Radix playthrough, because it's related, as I mentioned. uh, I had that intense curiosity to find out what would happen, even though it would cause a ton of suffering to all the characters that I really loved. But I had to see what would happen. I just had to find out more details about this world through destroying it. Which is
Right.
exactly what Flowey talks about, which is one of the parallels between Flowey and the player I thought was really cool in the murder run. And that same thing is what motivates the kid in Handplates as well, to do a murder run and then do a pacifist run. And that's also what motivates them in the end to go into the game files, start editing them, and again, start messing with the world they supposedly love to find out more things about it. That
Hmm.
curiosity is the same thing that's pushed them into all of those kind of things. They're it's a kind of consistent motivation that they have. Uh, and let's see. And that burning curiosity is a little bit in Gaster as well, but
Right.
that was more
Right.
so earlier on when I was starting to try to figure out who he was and stuff like that. It's not
Hmm.
as much of a not as much of an influence now, but when I was first trying to figure out who he was, that was one of the things that came to mind was that awful feeling I got while I was doing the murder run. Like I felt terrible while I was doing it. It made me feel really guilty and really awful, but I couldn't stop. Like even though like I was sad, felt so terrible and guilty, I just could not stop. It was not an option. I had to get to the end. It didn't care what I did. My curiosity was so strong, I just had to do it. And
Hmm.
that whole idea or that kind of feeling is part of what ends up in Handplays, or at least drives some parts of it. You can probably see that underlying idea behind or underneath a lot of some of the characters do.
Right.
Now,
One. Yeah. Go ahead.
yeah, this is just a small thing, but night. But 1990X was like said I used Ness as my fallen human's name because I was expecting Earthbound to be
I used Bobby.
Yeah, yeah.
to be an emotionally Earthbound to be as emotionally manipulative, for lack of a better term, as Mother 3. So I was nervous to use my own name, lol. And, and
um.
what's really sucky though? I mentioned this before, but my real name is Aaron, and if you played
Yeah.
Undertale,
Oh,
you
that's
ne-
true. The
y-
wink.
yeah, the
Oh
wing,
yeah, that's right.
yeah, the big beefy seahorse guy, seahorse mer person is called Aaron. And when I entered it in for the first time, the game just winked at me, and I'm just like, okay, what?
Um.
That's right. Little secret messages for certain names.
um. One thing. Sorry to. But one thing I really liked about Handplates is Sans and Papyrus both obviously come from Gaster. He is reflected in both of them. They're both kind of pieces of him, and
Mhm.
yet, and that's part of why they're so codependent on each other and they complement each other so well. It's just really interesting to me that Sans and Papyrus prop each other up and help each other to thrive, while Gaster himself is unbalanced and is kind of is struggling to keep himself together. Any thoughts on like Sans and Papyrus's codependency in the relationship and kind of what feelings you wanted to convey in kind of their characters, I guess?
Like the characters together or like the characters apart? Like, I
Either
know
way.
that, like, I know one of the things that I did want to do, like, this wasn't specific to Handplates, but this was just in general, like Undertale art, is that usually what I seem to see was that stuff that focused on one brother more than the other, usually Sans, and the other brother was more like an accessory to them, or they like their relationship only really got to like a certain point. Papyrus is annoyed at puns, Sans is really sad, that kind of thing. And for me, like, or like it was focused on one character, like I love Sans the most, I'd not into Papyrus, or I love Papyrus the most, I don't care about Sans. But for me, like, I noticed that I loved the brothers the most when they were together. Like, whenever they were interacting with each other, whenever they were talking to each other, telling jokes to each other, like, and I would really like comics about them when they were together. Like, I like them as a unit. And so, like, in Handplates, like, I wanted them to really be a unit, because I've seen a few different variants where like Sans is also a scientist who is also working on like experimenting with life and creates Papyrus, or like
Weird.
Papyrus is a scientist and he makes Sans, like stuff where they're on like on uneven ground, I guess you could say, or one of them has more influence or more respect, or something like that than the other. And I wanted them kind of both on the same level where they could both meet up with each other, I guess, kind of as equals, and something like that. And so both of them like depending on each other and gaining strength from each other and relying on each other. That was what I really liked in the game too. I really liked the mentions of them like being best friends, caring about each other, how much they needed each other, how they saved each other in the last battle. It just like, oh, I love that so much. Like, I wanted to keep that kind of feeling going, even with like when it goes badly, when like it ends up hurting one of them or the other. Like any kind of relationship always has ups or downs.
Right.
There are benefits, there are drawbacks, which I also really like messing
The
around with.
relationship is very complicated and very well written.
Thank you.
Cupcake, I feel like we haven't given you a chance to ask a question yet.
Hi, yes. I'm still here.
Do you have any?
It's okay. Take your time.
Oh, thank you. So, I was you have like a lot of offshoots, one-offs, or like separate timeline scenarios that either play off of Handplates or kind of parody Handplates in a way. Do you have a favorite of those?
I don't know if I have like necessarily a favorite. Like they each scratch a different itch, I guess you could say. Like
I
sometimes
mean, a lot of them are just like, please, just let these people be happy for once.
Yeah, exactly. Some of them are more positive than others. If I want to make baby jokes, I can do ones where he gets them as a baby. If I want to do kid jokes, I can do them as kids. If I want to get really angsty, I can also do them as kids, or I can do them more when they're like adults and he takes them in. Like there's like the different variants just give me a lot of different opportunities to explore ideas I like, or like scenarios I think could be interesting. So, some of them are more lighthearted than others, but like,
right, yeah.
Generally what I always like is if I get a really good idea, I can find usually a variant that I can do it in, or something that'll fit it in, which is always a lot of fun. So I think like I like all of them for different reasons. Like all my children.
So,
does it hurt
the chat?
Does it hurt when you have to draw things that put the characters in pain? And if so, what moment hurt you the most?
No, it doesn't hurt at all.
Okay, that's good.
like I'm always very aware they're fictional characters. Yeah, like
that's good.
Like they're fictional characters. Is what they do. Like it doesn't hurt to draw them. Like I tried to extend like a lot of empathy for how they might feel going through that in that situation, like Papyrus getting thrown into walls and getting his bones all broken. Like,
yeah, that's the moment I was thinking of.
He's going to be very hurt. He's going to be very hurt and scared. I can understand that, but actually drawing it was not difficult. Like it was writing it can sometimes be a little emotionally fraught. Like depending on how into it, like what I'm getting into it. Writing it, I think, is actually it has more of a chance for getting more emotionally affected while writing it than drawing it. I think probably because
Interesting.
drawing it takes so long. Like,
Right.
when you spend like hours looking at like a character screaming for like, you stop seeing it. Like, it's just
Right.
what it is.
It becomes a
Uh,
bunch of lines.
yeah, when you're writing it and when you're reading it, it seems easier to have to try and draw out like the emotion empathetically, and then it gets more into your head or more into your heart, something like that.
I will
But
say
drawing
I
it
was
wasn't too
in.
difficult.
I will say I was in it. I was welling up at a couple of points during this comic.
Yes, that was the aim.
Yeah. One of the this happened just last night because truth be told, I only finished reading through all of Handplates last night.
Mhm.
Or
Yeah,
to
we
be
all did.
Yeah, or to be more accurate, I did it very early in the morning at like 1 a.m. But yeah, I but yeah, just reading through the stuff, talking about like Papyrus going to see Rack and stuff, even though he knows he's gonna die and
Yeah.
stuff,
Oh,
and
yeah, that conversation was so hard. I came up like I had the idea for that confrontation very, very early. Like gosh, like right around like it would be very early, like around the time when I was working out their kind of future vision idea. Like that idea of the future vision kind of came back where I was like, wouldn't it be messed up if they knew it was going to happen, but they decided to do it anyway? And then it kind of turned out into that conversation. So I had that like lying around in my text file for like ages. And I think again, it got to like pick at it like for quite a while. But there are a lot of like difficult kind of choices like that, which I was like, people have to
yeah.
choose what to do. It's like it's meant to be kind of a mirror reflection of Undertale, where the choices that you make are extremely important. Like it's very much the fact that you have the option to make those choices, and that it's a conscious, knowing choice you make to do those things. Like it was a conscious choice to do a murder run. I chose to do that. Nobody forced me to do it. I chose to do it. And it's the same lines like I chose to save everyone. Like I chose to not kill anybody during my pacifist run. Like choices like that are, what kind of interested me, like in Handplates, the idea of choices and the choices people make and why they make them, and that kind of thing. I always thought it was really interesting, and that's why it's one of the things about Gaster that's I guess one of the defining things of his character is when he feels like he doesn't have a choice. When he does have a choice,
Mm-hmm.
he constantly has choices. He just
Absolutely.
refuses to take them. Like
He's not strong enough to make them.
yeah, exactly. He's got this sunk cost fallacy where he just can't get himself to turn around, or he just refuses to see other choices, and that ends up to his own demise. And you can't blame anybody else but him for it because he brought himself to that point.
It's so
Um,
poetic.
yeah.
Yeah. Also the like interpretation of like Sans' like internal monologue and stuff during his fight with Radek was just
Oh yeah. Oh, I
when he
love
was
that.
dying, I was just like I'm crying.
Oh, yeah, that's right. When he was dying, I thought that was really sad. That was another really old one. And the other one I really liked was also the one right before he fights the kid, where he's thinking about how he's not sure what to say because it feels
Right.
like he said everything. Like I'd seen a lot of things where Sans remembers. He remembers restats
Nah.
perfectly. And
That's not
I
how
get that
that
idea, but
works.
I didn't like it I didn't like it as much as the idea is that he just kind of abstractly knew that happened, but he didn't personally remember it. And then he kind of has to make choices based on something he's not positive happened, or it's like something that he knows happened but he can't remember, which is again kind of a parallel to a lot of how they lost their memories, but they know something happened but they can't remember what it is.
Yeah,
There's like a lot of little parallels like that.
it reminds me
Mm-hmm.
of like this one Star Trek episode, Yesterday's Enterprise. This one, every everyone's memories have basically been changed because of a time thingamabob, and if you wanna go look at it, if you wanna go look it up, you can. Seriously, that's like one of the best Star Trek episodes. But
Timey-wimey, wibbly-wobbly stuff.
yeah. Anyways, so yeah, yesterday, and the only one character that's like aware something has changed is this one character called Guinan, and and the whole time it's just like it's not like she like, oh, Albert Road, like, oh, this is all wrong and stuff. And it's just a feeling that she has, and it's really interesting to see how she has to convince people that no, this is wrong and stuff, when all she has is herself is like just base like something feels off and around the ship. And it's really compelling and really interesting to see someone having to outright say like, no, this is it, this that it what's going on here is wrong, when they themselves aren't even completely sure of themselves.
Hmm.
But yeah, speaking of emotional moments from the comic and stuff, I there's this one thing that stuck out to me and stuff. Stuck out to me and stuff. Yeah, I say and stuff way too much if you haven't noticed.
Uh-huh. Is this number 5 pasta?
Yeah, let me check. It was, yeah.
Okay, so let's do a quick, like, couple-minute trigger warning. Just in case.
Yeah, trigger warning. There will be discussions of suicide in the next couple minutes of discussions. So if people are uncomfortable in that, please stop listening now, and
please mute, and you can unmute in a few minutes.
Yeah. I'll even put a message in chat being like, okay, you can unmute now. So yeah. Anyway, so yeah. I was reading. I was page 70 of the comic and stuff, with Gaster talking to Alphys like near the core and all that.
Right. I don't know the numbers. Like, I just know what happens in them.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
That's fair.
And this is really just like a specific feeling I got because I on a personal note, I have been watching. I have been obsessed with fantasy for a bit. It first happened when I rewatched Lord of the Rings earlier this year with my brother, and now I moved on to Game of Thrones because I need my fantasy fix. Don't worry, I'm stopping before the seasons get bad. And anyways, there's this one moment in Game of Thrones. It's like in the season 6 finale, where this one character just outright just like, it's not even like a question. He just calmly like puts some of it. He just like stares at. He just like calmly puts some of his stuff down and stuff, and then just walks right off the high building that he was in, and seeing that, and then just seeing Gester just like so close to the lava and stuff, and the way he was talking, I was just like, he's not thinking about walking off, right?
Oh, you mean like that bit, or are you? Or from what I glanced at it, you're asking whether or not he was actually going to commit suicide at that point, or
like, was he considering it?
Yeah, that's what I.
Well, sorry, do you want to?
I was just gonna say, the feeling I got personally from it was more of that he was shaken from that Eldritch abomination, where it said that he was not gonna show up in like the future timelines. So I kind of viewed it more as like Gaster thought that he was going to die. I didn't get the impression he was intending on taking his own life, but more just had this feeling that something was going to happen to him, and he was afraid that he was going to be forgotten. But I'm not sure if that was the intention.
The like, I always call it the goop monster, but like that encounter really did shake him very much. But the whole like the idea behind that conversation Gaster and Alphys had is that it is supposed to be very alarming and very scary. Like, it's supposed to feel like something, like it's supposed to feel like Gaster is going to do something terrible. And the thing is that he, like, I don't think he was actually going to do it. What he was the general idea that I was always a little bit vague because I wanted to leave wiggle room for people to interpret it in different ways. But what I always thought of it as was that he was going to go to Asgore and tell him what he was doing. Because at that point, like, he's turned around with the brothers, he stopped hurting them, he stopped doing things, stopped giving them things. Like, basically, the experiment is over. It's over, and he knows that he's not going to show up. He knows Papyrus doesn't see him. He knows that he's probably going to die, or he's going to get arrested. He's going to disappear. Something's going to happen to him, and it's over. There's no reason to keep going. So he's just going to go to Asgore and just go to jail and just let it end. Like, the whole thing's going to end. And he feels really guilty about it. And that's why he apologized to Alphys, because she's going to find out what an awful person he is and, like, all the terrible things that he's done. Everybody's going to know all the terrible things he's done. And you can see that in, like, one of the later comics. That's a flashback when they're in the lab, where it's interspersed with his flashbacks and the brothers looking through the lab. He talks about he needs to be realistic about the costs of doing the experiment. And he goes through, like, a list of the worst case scenarios of what he thinks will happen. Like, where Alphys will turn him away, Asgore will imprison him, he might get executed, that kind of thing. Basically, like, his entire life will be over. That's at the point he is when he's talking to Alphys. He's like, my entire life is over. I give up. Like, this is it. I'm just going to go to Asgore and just let it end. And he just happens to phrase it in a way where it really sounds like he's going to kill himself.
Yeah.
Which is what scares Alphys so much that she breaks into his lab in the first place.
Right.
So,
Yeah, it's just
right.
it's just
That makes sense.
Yeah, I was just thinking, like, with how he was talking about how much he was, like, ruining people's lives and stuff. I was just like, he's not real. There's probably a bit of him that's just looking down at that lava and stuff, and he was just like, maybe it would be better if I was just erased.
Well, that whole, like, the being erased is very upsetting. The whole idea of being erased is very upsetting to him.
It is.
Yeah, that's one of my biggest fears, like, probably even more than death and stuff, like, just the idea of, hey, when you're gone and stuff, no one will really care.
It's kind of interesting because Gaster feared being found out and having people know what he was doing. And in the end, no one knows anything about what he was doing, but nobody knows anything else about him either.
That's right. And he didn't even have anything to do with the barrier breaking, so he did all of it for nothing.
Exactly.
And he just hurt everybody who cared about him by just vanishing completely from their lives. Everything he did was a complete waste. And all he did was hurt everyone around him. And, that's what happens when you make terrible choices like that, knowingly, for such a long period of time. Like, he got driven to a really desperate point, and he had a choice to not do it, and he decided to go for it anyway. And I think that's one of the really twisted ironies of it, is that, like, through a lot of his earlier life, he went through a lot of tragedy that was not his fault. Like, he didn't he didn't start the war. He didn't ask for his family to be killed. He had nothing to do with that. Right. And he didn't have anything to do with what happened to the goat family either. Like, that was not his fault. But his survivor's guilt made him blame himself for it. And he believed it was his fault. And then that belief that he did those things made him do awful things for real. Like, the vision he saw of himself as a bad person came true, and that he did become a bad person and made bad choices, which is, it's like, was it like I remember somebody said, like you really like writing characters who are sort of Greek tragedies that bring about their own downfall, which does actually seem to be kind of a running theme. They end up destroying themselves through their own bad choices or their own kind of things like that. But,
I mean, it's very interesting.
Absolutely. Kind of going along with the darker sort of themes. Someone in the chat had a question. Unfortunately, we didn't get to it until they left, but they are a little concerned, where they say that sometimes in the comic, they worry that people might interpret the comic as somehow glorifying the abuse of the skeletons or trying to sympathize with Gaster. And they ask if you were able to go back and change that, if you would, or if you think that sort of view on it is unfounded. Personally, I never saw it that way, but
well, I can't control how people interpret it, but I am very aware that it deals with sensitive topics that people can take very personally, and I know some people take things from it that reflect their own personal struggles or the traumas that they might have gone through. And as a result, some people just despise Gaster absolutely, which is completely justified. Like like that is completely understandable. And there are other people who just love him, you know, like they get very attached to his like what happened to him in his story, and they can do that if they want to. Like people are entitled to their own feelings about this story.
Kind
But
of like how Sans and Papyrus have different views on the matter as
yeah,
well.
exactly. Like Papyrus really wants Gaster to choose to be, you know, to make better choices, and Sans doesn't want to have anything to do with him. Both of those are valid reactions. I think both of their feelings about Gaster are valid. And that's one of the things I really like I want to get across is that the reaction that somebody has to suffering through abuse is specific to that person. How they decide to react to it, how they decide to interpret it, how the relationship they decide to have with that person afterwards is up to them. Like there isn't any correct way to do it. Like there isn't any one right way you're supposed to react to trauma or you're supposed to react to abuse. Like it's specific to you and your situation. Like like abuse is another theme that comes up a lot in my stories. I end up thinking about that a lot actually. Like it's not something that I threw into the story carelessly. Like the whole
Certainly.
idea of how you deal with abuse and trauma, even if you can't remember it, is something that's always been kind of baked into the story itself. Like, like I would hope the abuse isn't glorified because none of it came to anything. Like it didn't do anything except cause the brothers massive issues in the future, even if they can't remember exactly what happened. But I can see where where the portrayal of Gaster I think can what's what I'm looking for? He's very polarizing. I think would be the right word for it. People have very strong reactions to him, which is understandable. Like, I think like the one that pleases me the most is that when people hate him, but they also kind of feel bad for him, but they still hate him, but they also feel kind of bad for him at the same time.
That's true.
Where they feel conflicted, where their feelings towards Gaster are complicated. Like that's what I like. That's what I'm trying to aim for. Is that you can't just feel like one simple way about him. It's like, you know, you gotta like it's complicated. You know,
Absolutely.
that kind of idea.
Yeah.
That's what I like to aim for, at least. Whether or not I succeed in that, you know, it depends on the breeder in particular. But, you know, I'm giving it my best shot.
That makes sense.
Well, at least with Smash 3, you succeeded because because with Gaston, we're all just like.
Yeah, again, everybody has their own reactions to him, and they're all valid. It's like I'm not gonna say anyone is right or wrong. Like you have your own, and that's that's yours.
I feel like it certainly humanizes Gaster in a lot of ways without justifying his behavior.
Everything he did was like what he did to the brothers was completely wrong, 100%.
Absolutely,
unequivocally, 100% wrong. Like they were terrible choices he made and knowingly made for a very long period of time, even when he should have known better.
Yeah,
but how you feel about him though after that point, you know, up to you. But everything he did to the brothers was wrong. Like that, I can say very definitively. That was all very wrong.
Yeah. So, and this is why I daydream about Chibi Bardic smacking it with the broom.
Bap, bap.
Get back in the goop, you.
Go back to the goop. Alright. So this next question, this is more a question that's going to be for the two that's going to be probably a better discussion for the two artists and artists here. Your art style in the Undertale fandom is very unique, especially in how it feels very scribbly yet finished. Do you have any ideas how your art style developed?
Yeah, any
scribbly, how dare you? I'm offended. I'm gonna leave. I'm just kidding. Like scribbly, I know. Like for some of them, I'm just trying to work quickly. I don't have time to, you know, spend. I can't like Handplates pages take hours and hours. They take days. Like I can't spend much time on a silly comic. I just bang it out quickly, and people thankfully don't get too much of my case about that. But scribbly art, where did it start? I think for a while I tried to, like when I was younger, I tried to have more like kind of, I guess something more serious or detailed in terms of like the faces and stuff like that. And then at one point, I just I hit on like little dot eyes, and I did the dot eyes for little tiny chibis, just for little jokes. And then finally, I was just like, you know what? And then I just shifted the dot eyes up, and then from that point, I think it just became simpler and a little bit more cartoony. And then I just kind of continued from that point on. Like with Handplates for a while, I just didn't know what I was doing. Like the first Handplates comic, again, I really didn't think it was gonna be a big thing, so I just banged out the first comic and was like, well, done. And then, because at that point, I'd never done full-scale comic pages like that, at least not that many. And sorry, just ignore that. And like I never done an ongoing comic story before. Like I've never done multiple colored pages of something that were that long either, that consistently. So for a while, I just didn't know what I was doing. I was just kind of flailing around and trying to figure out like how I wanted things to look, how much effort or time I wanted to put into each page, like kind of getting an estimate for it. I don't know how to explain how my style got unique. It just kind of is what it is. But again, like the scribbly lines sometimes just when I just don't have time. Like I just trying to get an idea out quickly. With Handplates pages, they've cleaned up. Like nowadays, the Handplates, like the lines, I think, are cleaner than they were before in the earlier pages. But like sometimes you just have to make compromises to get an idea across as quickly as you can.
Any like advice for other artists / writers?
Kind of depends on what what project you're working on.
Fair enough.
If you're working on like a long comic, like if you're working on any kind of long story, I really recommend going through the whole story, at least figuring out the basic framework of what your plot is, like where it starts, what the middle part is, where it ends, because then you can fill in the rest as you go along. Like, then you can decide to put in stories here and there. But at least having an idea of what you're aiming for helps give you a little bit of focus. And you can be like, okay, I'm trying to get to this point. I got to do some things to get me to that point. Like, then you have to just figure out those things. But some people just wing things. Like, I mean, technically with Handplates, I was winging it for quite a few comics until me and Mel started to like bang it back into shape. So, sometimes it works. Sometimes it doesn't. I think like one is that if you get an idea, just go for it. Like if I'd like overthought Handplates before I went into it and been like, am I ready to devote myself to a comic for 5 years? Like I'd have been like, no. Like, I could never do that. I would absolutely fail. And if I'd overthought it, I wouldn't have done it. But instead, I just kind of just did the first one and just kind of kept doing it without, really worrying too much about how hard it'd be or like whether people would like it or anything like that. Just if you get an idea, just go for it. Just do it. It doesn't matter if it's goofy or silly or whatever. Just go for it and see what happens. Life is too short. It's like not to try and make whatever it is that you want, or whatever it is that brings you joy. Because as far as sad as Handplates is, I do get a lot of I do enjoy making it, and I like writing it, and I like drawing it and putting it out there. Otherwise, I wouldn't have done it. Like if I didn't enjoy making it, I would not be making it. But I do enjoy it, so
yeah.
Fortunately enough. And now I'm committed because I'm going to finish it. I swear to God, I'm never going to forgive myself. So I've never made it this far on any project like this. And if I drop the ball this close to the end, I'm going to be so mad.
Yeah, I was about to say, we're getting close, aren't we?
We are getting close to the end. This is probably going to be the last arc that I'm in right now.
That's exciting.
Yeah, it is. It's very weird to actually be coming to the end. Like in the early parts, I never thought I'd get this far. Like I could picture it like a million miles away, but I was like, I'm not gonna get there. But I could think about it, but I'm not actually gonna get there. And now I am there, and it's amazing to actually get to these points where I've like loosely pictured things that have happened, and now I'm actually there, and I'm actually doing it. There was like I've come through like a few moments like that in Handplates where I actually got to complete loops that I wasn't sure I'd finish. Like when I set up the first loop, like the one where the brothers, where Papyrus sees Sans in the future when he looks happy. Like I set up that loop, and I knew where it was going to come back, and I was like, I don't know if I'm gonna make it to that point. That I'm gonna set up this loop and hope that I do. And same thing with like them seeing themselves in the lab. I set up that
was
loop and
so
I was
cool.
like, I don't know if I'll make it to that loop. It might be years away, but I'm gonna set it up and hope I make it that far. And then I
Those
did.
loops-
That was
Honestly,
so
those
cool.
loops are one of the coolest things about hand plates, in my opinion.
Yeah, that's another reason why working out the plot ahead of time is really cool, because it lets you work out things like that, where you can properly foreshadow things. And it's very satisfying when they actually get to that point. It's like one of the best things is when you actually complete a loop, or when you put down the foreshadowing and then the foreshadowing all comes together and you're like, yes.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's right. That's right. All those people out there. When it comes to like foreshadowing and when big reveals happen, it's not just you that's like, yes. It's also the author and stuff.
Yeah, it's great. Yeah, like I love picking up foreshadowing and things, but I love putting it in too. And I really
Yeah.
love when people pick up on it. Like I know some
Absolutely.
writers don't like it. Like I think what was it, the writers for Westworld got really mad that people like figured out the twist on their show, so they changed it at the last minute. And it always to me seemed really strange because like if you're putting in foreshadowing, you should want people to figure out your twist. You should have people expect what's gonna happen.
that means your viewers are smart.
Yeah,
It's true.
exactly.
Yeah.
Like I don't get that at all. When people figure like plot twists out, it's very satisfying to me because I can be like, "Yes, you get it. You're picking up all the clues I'm leaving for you."
Yeah,
Like
it's also
it's very
Absolutely.
cool when it happens.
it's
very
also
satisfying.
it's also fun being coy with people, like when they figure it out like early and stuff, and they're just like, hey, I figured this out. Is this is what's gonna actually happen? You're just like, maybe.
Yeah, you can't spoil it, but I do look at comments where people do figure it out, and I'm just very pleased and pointing at my screen like, "You get it," but you can't say that. You don't want to spoil things. Like,
Yeah.
I keep spoilers on a pretty tight lid. Mal's the only one who actually knows the entire story, so she knows all the spoilers, but she's the only one. Most everybody else, I try to keep in the dark. But with the foreshadowing and clues I leave, most of the time they can pretty much figure out or have an idea of where things are going. Although this next part is very interesting, like because foreshadowing has led a lot up to this point, but like this whole, let's say this whole arc, a lot of it is going to, I think, like a lot of it is not, well, what's the word I'm looking for? Like a lot of people are like, I don't know where this is going, or I'm excited, or stuff like that. And there's gonna be some fun little twists and stuff like that's gonna happen in this.
So
Like,
excited.
yeah,
Yes.
it's gonna be neat. It's gonna be neat. I mean, like it's not random. Like there weren't just many clues for what's gonna happen. Like or at least not obvious ones. When you look back on it, you'll be able to see that were some things foreshadowing what's gonna happen, but direct clues not so much. But it's one of the things that may be more obvious in retrospect. That's one of the things that was also like a challenge where when I think where I saw the story on a macro scale. Like I always saw everything that would happen. So like I knew when Gaster fell that he'd be back. Like it'd take a long time, but he'd be back. And so I saw a lot of people that were like, I can't believe he just died. Like I can't believe Gaster's dead. Like rip. But like, and they were like,
gone for good.
that's like a disappointing end to that whole arc. Like I really like that character. It's too bad we'll never see him again. And I can't say anything. It was because I knew that he was coming back. So like to me that arc was not done because I knew I was going to finish it much later in the future. But for some people
Gaster-
that was the end.
Gaster just
so-
went on hiatus.
Yeah, exactly.
That was
But you
season
can't
1 of
spoil it.
Gaster.
Yeah.
Bardic in the chat. Up until now, everything was leading up to the first thing where the human was looking at the plates.
That's not wrong. That's not wrong. I was very like I can't tell you the feeling that was to actually loop right back to the first one.
Oh,
Like,
absolutely.
That was the thing was that my arm was all messed up at that point, which is really like my arm got messed up at like one of the most pivotal parts of the story, which
Ooh,
is so upsetting. But like
I'm sure.
after like it was so weird to actually come back to the first one where I just had no idea the story would become what it is, and to come back to it and tie it back into the whole overarching thing after all this time was so amazing. It's hard to actually like describe how that feeling is. Like completing the time loops, like coming back and tying things back in and together. It's very satisfying. Like putting things up, wrapping them up in a little bow. It's really cool.
Mm-hmm. it seems like there's a couple different arcs within the story. There's the growing up in the lab with Gaster experimenting arc. There's the escaping the lab and going to live with Asgore arc. There's the kind of setting up Undertale by establishing Undyne and Flowey and finding out the machine sort of arc. And then there's kind of this current arc that's going into Undertale and kind of beyond into Gaster's possible return. What kind of is your favorite part of the story, do you think? What part do you think you're most proud of?
Proud of, I'm not sure, but I did really like the lab just because it was a flexible place where I could sometimes just do an idea without having to tie it necessarily into like a bigger thing. Like sometimes I was just like, I just want to have Gaster and Sans talk about a piece of paper, like when he ripped the paper in half. And I was like, that stands on its own. I can just slot it in where it fits. You know, it was a little looser and more freeform. And of course, the backgrounds and clothes were a lot easier to do. They were a lot faster back
Blank
then.
and sterile. Yes.
Yeah, it was so much faster back then. Like, new ones take forever. But, like, there was just, I don't know, it was kind of a weird, constricted, kind of small area, you know, where you could kind of laser focus on small events or little random character turns, and you know, it was flexible in that I could do different things. And you know, it has a very distinct vibe in the lab, like, you know, like, I'm sure you know what I mean, but the lab has its own kind of feeling to it. I was actually kind of sad to leave when I knew I was heading into like the last arc, when I'd have to actually leave. I was like, it's too, like, I kept trying to think of more little lab stories, and I was like, no, I think that's pretty much it. We just gotta go. And you know,
but that was a scary moment.
It was, because I was also really worried about, like, doing because leaving the lab meant going into a lot of really difficult things. I have to do backgrounds, for example.
Right.
Especially because they were going to go to Asgore's house, and I'm like, I'm going to have to draw Asgore's house now and do his clothes and do other characters.
On the subject of Asgore, though, may I say, as a furry myself, I have to commend you for just how soft and fuzzy and stuff you made the dreamers look. They look so adorable in your style.
I always draw I draw furry characters very fluffy. Like, always like that. But the second you mentioned, the second arc I really like is when they're with Asgore, actually, because I love Asgore. That was one of the reasons, like, when me and Mal were thinking about where they could go, we both went to Asgore because we both really liked Asgore, and we just wanted to see more stories with Asgore in them, because he doesn't really play a huge role in most stories, and when he does, he's like the sad dad who's sad Toriel's being mean to him or something like that.
Yeah.
Or he's, you know, like Murder King. Usually, those are the two things.
Not gonna lie. Like I said, I didn't read through Handplates much at all up until this point, but I remember like being like, "Hey, is Handplate still going on and stuff?" and checking that a while ago, and seeing just Papyrus and like the Dreamer clothing and stuff, and how Papyrus and Sans in the Dreamer clothing, and I was just like, "What the flip?"
I love that. I was so happy to get to that point, because I wanted to really show Asgore being a good dad. I just wanted him to just dad those skeletons so hard, and he did. It was so funny. Like, he got to teach them so much stuff, and he got to, you know, show them so many things, and he took really nice care of them. And he also got to dig in a bit about, you know, how, like, his grief about losing his family, and, you know, how lonely he feels, poor guy, and eventually leading up to when he exploded his own life. Like, in a kind of a parallel to what Gaster did. Like, they're fun parallels throughout the story, but like, Asgore's house is the nightmare. I hated drawing that place. But like, Asgore himself was always a lot of fun. I always really liked him, and I always like bringing him back when I can now. And I like that he checks in on the brothers every now and then still, but you know, he's off doing his own thing right now. But I did really like it when he was with them. Like, it's kind of a nice little cozy home feeling, and I liked seeing the brothers in a nice environment where they could learn stuff safely, and somebody was just being nice to them. I did want that after so much suffering in the lab.
Can I just say, with you like complaining about backgrounds and stuff, I'm just like, I just imagine, like, I know it's obvious that the actual intention for Gaster and stuff to erase all the stuff in that lab was for story reasons and stuff, but I can only just imagine there's just a part of you that was just like, Yes. Not only am I back drawing really simple backgrounds, but now there's even less to draw.
Yeah, I don't have to draw the laser machine anymore. God, that was annoying too. And I can't even blame anybody else for that design. That was my fault. Like, I made it that complicated. So when I have to draw that laser machine, it's just like, oh, I have nobody to blame. But, like, laser machine was a big pain. Most of the other, like, consoles and stuff were not that bad. But it was a relief to go back to the lab and just not have to draw any of that. Like, all the rooms are empty. Very convenient.
Just some boxes.
Yeah,
And a
very
color
convenient.
tube.
And some tables for Papyrus to topple over.
When he throws
That was a
his
crazy
existential fit.
Yeah, that was great. I love that. I
That was
love it
really
because you don't really
shocking.
see Papyrus get mad very often.
Absolutely.
And,
Yeah.
Right, yeah.
and even in Handplates, he doesn't get very mad very frequently. But I did want to, like, I didn't want to figure that if you're at that point, you've just been pushed to your breaking point. Just for a second, you're just gonna snap and just let it out, just get mad for a second.
Yeah,
So that was
it's
really
like-
that was satisfying.
Yeah, and I love the fact that you can tell that this isn't something that Papyrus does on a ever really.
Yeah.
Just through Sans' expression.
Yeah. He's just so
Just,
startled.
Just the worry and the
Oh, yeah.
surprise on his face is just like, wow, are you okay?
Because Sans isn't used to it either. Like,
Right.
he's used to Papyrus being like, stop making stupid puns. But you've never really seen Papyrus that mad. And even
No,
you can
never.
even tell that Papyrus himself was a little upset about it because after it's over, because he's like, I'm sorry, I lost control like that. I'm not going to do that again. And Sans like, it's okay to get mad. It's worth getting
Yeah.
mad about, which is true.
Mhm.
Sometimes it's when bad things happen, it's worth getting really mad about them.
Right.
It's
right.
frustrating.
It's a good lesson. Is there
It
like,
is.
if you had to say there was a moral to do you think there's a moral to the story of Handplates, or do you think there's just a bunch of little interconnected lessons that people can learn from the experience? Like, what do you hope people take away, kind of?
Don't be bad parents.
That's one, sure. Like, I don't know if there's any kind of single overarching moral necessarily. But I do dig in, like, a lot of it digs into, again, like dealing with abuse and trauma and like the various
Mhm.
emotional reactions you can have to those or things that have happened in your past. And, I guess what I'd like is for people just to, I don't know, like, just think about them, like to perhaps think about their own reactions to what happened, if terrible things happen to them, or, how they process that kind of stuff, or how they process their own feelings or escaping different relationships. Some things, like, I guess some things more obvious warnings, like when Flowey is gaslighting Papyrus.
Oh yeah,
Oh
for sure.
yeah. Can
I'll
I just
make it clear,
say-
like, don't be aware of this.
That was terrible.
While
Like-
we were reading that section, I think we were all kind of internally just cringing at just
Yeah.
how
Yeah, I was
how
getting just
horrible it
like,
was with him gaslighting.
I mean, Flowey is a really interesting character, and Asriel
Oh, he
Dreamer
is.
is my personal favorite from Undertale. But man, do I gotta tell you so many times where I was just like, Flowey, Flowey, Flowey.
It's
It was hard for
interesting.
me to read through Flowey's lines without getting yelled at.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like Flowey gaslighting him was like it was a cautionary tale. That was like, somebody's doing this, you don't like, they're not your friend. There are some things whether it's like, if somebody's doing this to you, it's not okay. There's some things like that. But there's some where it's like, if your feelings are complicated about this, that's okay. Or like, if you're mad about something, that's okay. I guess it, like, in a sense, it's a little validating of certain emotions that might be complicated or difficult.
Yeah.
I guess in that sense, something like that. And there's
story about-
still more to come. That'll I guess that's sort of related to the whole idea.
I guess at the
but,
end of the day, it's a story about suffering mostly.
Yeah, mostly. I always hear that in my head. It's like a story about suffering, mostly. Like, it's kind of an aside. But I'm
That's
actually
really cool.
I like it because it is like the phrase suffering is actually it's not meant to. It has I guess some nuance to it. I guess you can consider it's not
Right.
specifically just like, it's not specifically about the brothers suffering, and it's not about the actual act of suffering. It's about like it's about the like the impact suffering can have on your life, like the suffering Gaster went through that had an impact on his that led to him making those awful choices. It's about the suffering you can have after you've gone through trauma or abuse as you try to deal or process those emotions. It's about the actual suffering that others go through, of course. It's about, processing suffering after the fact, getting over suffering, like, healing from suffering, rebuilding your life after suffering.
And kind of suffering through things.
Yeah, exactly. Like
having patience.
Like a story about suffering actually has a lot of shades of gray to it, that phrase. And I know it's kind of a pithy, like kind of a pithy write-up of the story. Where the brothers get tortured, that's it. But, like suffering takes a lot of different forms and it can be explored in a lot of different ways. And that's kind of like what I like. I like exploring in Handplates. Like suffering and the choices people make because of that suffering. And, how people relate or hurt each other through their own damage or their own trauma that they've gone through. That's always just been a topic that's really interested me. So I'm not surprised it also showed up in Handplates.
It's extremely interesting and extremely thought-provoking.
Yeah, it's difficult. Like I can understand people that don't want to, or like that people are like that are like where it's like that is too dark. I think is that it's too dark a story, and it's like this. It's a very dark story. It's true, and that's fair. Like, don't read it if you think it will upset you, that kind of thing. It's not for everybody, but I like to think that for some people it's been comforting or helpful, or emotionally validating. I guess some people have said that it's been very helpful to them, which is really nice. That's like one of the best things to hear about a story is that it helped somebody through something, or they were going through a bad time and it helped them through it, or inspire them to create or something like that. That's great. Like that's the real payoff for writing a story, is knowing that it helps someone. I think, even if it wasn't in like an unorthodox way.
That's awesome.
It's a great feeling. I love that. It's very motivating.
Honestly, I'm always just really blown away by just how intricately everything is put together.
Yeah, I love it. Like, it's very satisfying looking back on it. It's very satisfying to be able to look back and pull out little details and tie them together, like little callbacks here and there, like little references, pulling back little details that don't expect. It's great. I love it.
Even
I love
little
when
things.
I find those.
Even little things of like Gaster's mugs and like the brothers kind of sharing a wardrobe and a lot of the same clothes.
Yeah, the brothers sharing a wardrobe, and you can see Gaster in some of those outfits, like all the little details in his house and their house that I got to tie together. Like they even got the pet rock in there. Like it was very satisfying to tie like little handplate specific things into Undertale specific things. Like I think like one of the smaller ones is that like a monster kid in the game mentions that Asgore went to their school and talk to them about flowers, and I got to have Asgore go to school with them and talk about flowers. And it's a line that's really easy to forget, but I managed to work it in there. And what Asgore says is even a parallel to, he's talking basically about what happened to like Asriel and stuff like that. Like it's his guilt from what happened to them. But it's the subtext. There's a lot of little subtexty things like that, which is also really fun.
Absolutely.
It's very satisfying. It's like putting together a puzzle.
Yeah.
You just have to look for the underlying suffering behind every sentence.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
all
it's
the
like
emotional damage one carries.
Yeah, people don't remember that line that much, but they also don't remember MK is a part of this.
And poor monster kid.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All three of us here, all three of us hosts here are all like Monster Kid fans. We're just like, no,
Indeed,
you could do so much more with them and stuff. And it's really nice to see people like Absolute Dream do stuff with them, like Monster Kid actually being a part of like the Dreamer kid gang and all that stuff.
Yeah, I love Monster Kid. They're very cute.
Yes, they are.
So it's always fun when I can have them show up, but like there aren't too many chances for that.
No, but
they are fun when I can do it.
Yeah, I love when they can actually show up.
Yeah, I also like Also,
Also the Temmie bits.
I love
yeah.
Temmie. Temmie is my favorite. If you had asked me my favorite character in Undertale is, it's definitely Temmie.
Oh,
Because every
I,
time
Oh,
I
you
see
have a
Temmie,
Temmie
huge
profile picture?
smile. I
yeah,
just
I was
love her
about to
so
say,
much.
no one could have guessed that with the Temmie profile picture.
I love Temmie so much. Like she just brings me so much joy, and I was so happy to have the brothers go to Temmie Village. The funny
You
thing,
feel,
Cathartic.
yeah, it was when I was working out details about the brothers, like kind of adjusting to life outside of Asgore's house. I had sketches of them going to Temmie Village and being like, "We don't, Temmies don't have history, skeletons don't have history. It totally makes sense." And then, I have a note next doodle where it's like, "Haha, actual plot points at Temmie Village," and I did it. I actually put it
yeah,
together, and
yeah,
they
the
brought me to Temmie Village.
yeah the
Oh, I
Temmie,
loved it.
the Temmie stuff was like, just a little side note, like, Temmie, like the actual artist and stuff. I hope that in the official release of Deltarune that Toby Fox like puts out at least a little reference to how she's been really big into streaming and stuff lately.
Well, I hope so. I do wonder what's gonna happen to Deltarune, but that'll be a
Yeah.
while coming in that. But I love Temmie so much. They're my favorite, and like the brothers at Temmie Village and talking to Temmie are some of my favorite bits. Like little
Uh,
short, like in terms of like little tiny bits. That's only for like a comic and a half. Still love them. But I just love
Yes.
Temmie so much.
yeah,
That was
yeah,
one of my favorite parts to voice as we
yeah.
were reading it. So
I love seeing
Yeah,
translations of that too. Temmie is fascinating to me because I love seeing how
Mm-hmm.
different languages interpret her text. Because Temmie talks so weirdly,
It's
and
true.
yeah, and other languages have to have equivalents for that. But what are they? I just think that's
You
really
get
cool.
like weird keyboard culture.
Yeah,
yeah.
I want to know more about that. It's really interesting. That's one of the cool things about Undertale is that there's so many translators, and that you can see so many different versions of the same comic, and it's really cool. I love that. I'm really into languages. I just think
Yeah.
it's really fascinating. And it's
I
actually it's like sometimes I've gone into threads. There's like a Chinese thread where they're translating into Chinese. And sometimes I go into there and just read comments on occasion. And like it was very satisfying to see them also with the kind of conflicted feelings about Gaster. Where they were like, I hate him, but I feel kind of bad for him, but I hate him. And I was like, it's the same across other languages too. It's coming across. It's very cool. I love that.
my writing kid breached the cultural barrier.
yes.
Yeah,
I love that about Undertale. It's so cool.
yeah. Another thing with Temmie and stuff is like, I'm pretty sure with a good portion of Undertale fans, for about a year and a half after Undertale became a big thing and stuff, and all my friends played it at school and stuff, instead of saying hi, we said "hoy" whenever we
I
greet
still
each
say that to
other.
people.
Oh yeah, that's like they were like I don't know. I just love Temmies. They're so great. And
Yes, so cute.
and let's see. I was trying to think of something else. Um, like oh yeah, in terms of themes for Handplates choices, like in general choices are also like a big theme. That's going to be a very big part of the next arc. But I don't
Right.
want to say
So
too much about that.
yeah,
Just
is there anything that you like want the audience to like keep in mind going forward, or to just kind of reflect on as we go into this final segment?
let's see. Um, hmm. Well, there like I would like to kind of remind things to keep in mind. Where the brothers were at right before Gaster fell in the lava. Like where they were at and what their relationship with Gaster was like at that point. And also like the general I guess arc of their relationship with him as it went over time. There's that and also, unsurprisingly, the old goop monster, which is
Ooh.
like set that up like a million years ago, but you
Yeah,
know.
Mhm,
yeah,
mhm.
And
the void monster was just like, that was really unexpected while we were reading through that, and
it is
Oh yeah.
it's very sudden, and that it's kind of supposed to be that. And when the whole story is finished, it should be more clear why that happens the way that it does. But I can't get too much into that right now.
Yeah, because we're still linear at this point.
Yeah,
Right,
there's still some key pieces of it missing, but hopefully at the end of it, it will all hinge together. There's a lot of it feels like there's a lot of pressure right now to to pull this all together.
Oh,
Like,
Oh,
you
I'm
better
sure
do
it'll be
good,
great.
Zarla,
If
or
if
everyone's gonna be mad at you for
no,
it is.
screwing
You
up.
say that, but
I
I do worry about that.
Yeah.
well,
I'm
if it means
joking.
anything,
Obviously, you're gonna do fine, Zarla.
yeah, if
You
it
haven't
means anything,
disappointed us before.
everything up to this point has just been so fantastic, and I have complete faith that everything is going to end up being great.
Thank you.
Yeah.
It's reassuring to know that. Like that people have faith that I can pull it off, because I worry that myself that maybe I can't do it, but I've come this far, I'm gonna see it to the end. Like even if I totally
Yes.
botch it, I'm going to finish it. I don't care. I'm determined. I am determined to do it.
Yes.
Yes.
Great. Yeah.
Zarla is filled with determination.
Yeah.
I had to at least work that in
Woo.
somewhere.
Yeah. And there's like
credits.
another thing to keep in mind is just like the kid themselves with what drove them to access Gaster, with like that determination to find out things, to that curiosity that led them to do that. Like that's a clue in its own sense. But again, I can't get too much into exactly how, because that'll be more obvious once it actually gets to the end. But you'll see. Like there's still a whiles to go.
Mhm.
There's still a whiles to go. It is near the end though. It is close to the end, and I might finish it before the end of the year. But
Ooh.
I'm not
Ooh.
positive. It depends. Like my arm getting all messed up really threw a wrench into that.
Right.
But
of course.
it's mostly better now. But it did. It's dropping off quite a bit. But I think I should be able to do that. It'd be really cool if I could do it by the anniversary of Handplates. I'm not sure I'll be able to do that, but it'd be cool if I could, because I could
when's
finally
the-
bring the whole thing out complete, like into a complete circle.
When's
That'd
the
be really
anniversary of Handplates again? I'm not entirely sure.
That's the 25th of November,
Okay.
and I
So
mostly
you
remember
got a
that
while,
because-
but you also have a good number of pages left
Yeah.
to draw, so
yeah,
it's
There's
not
a lot of-
possible, but
Yeah.
it's not probable.
and this arc is I don't know, like I'd say this arc requires finesse. Let's say, like there's a lot of stuff that's building up to this, and I have to handle it carefully. Is the thing.
Honestly, it seems
So-
like anything regarding Gaster requires a certain amount of nuance.
It does. Like I do try to portray him kind of. Again, I mentioned I try to deal with things thoughtfully, because I know there's again he touches on difficult and emotionally charged topics,
Right.
and I am aware of that, and I try to handle that with thought when I can, and it's hopefully that I do.
I believe so, but
It is in my mind when it comes to him. So it'll be interesting to see how everything resolves, let's say.
Yeah.
heck yeah.
It's just like with also the pressure of like having a good ending and stuff. It's like if you actually start to think about it, how many stories actually, especially long running ones, have good satisfying endings? Like
Yeah, it's very hard to stick the landing. Like
Yeah.
it's a trouble part for like a lot of things. So,
I have like
you know.
I can count like satisfying endings on like for like big long stories and stuff on my hand. There's like Lord of the Rings. There's honestly I thought the whole Infinity Saga wrapping up for Marvel was handled pretty well, and yeah, there are a couple others, but I'm just like it's just like hard for me to think of, because I'm just like there's a lot of ones where it's just like it starts out really good and stuff, and it is really good for a long time, but then at the ending it just flops. Like
Yeah.
say
That's a common thing. But like
Game of Thrones
not-
or Star Wars or
yeah, some things that really botched it, but I tend to be fairly forgiving for things that I like. I I don't keep my expectations too high for certain things. I don't know if
I
it's a
don't really
controversial
either.
opinion or not, but I was pretty satisfied by the Steven Universe ending, for
Oh
example. And I
yeah,
know
I
some
was.
people were not happy with that, but I was actually pretty happy with it.
Yeah,
So
I was happy with
yeah,
that too,
but I
and
mean,
I see
endings are
people being,
difficult.
yeah, I see people being like, oh no, this the ending was bad and stuff, and but a lot of but for those people, a lot of times just like, what did you expect? It's Steven Universe. It's not what you think it's going. That's not what you want it to be. That's not gonna happen. It's not that type of show.
Yeah, like as like I think me and Mal have we've talked about it a lot. Like because I have an ending. I know how Handplates ends, and it's always going to end the same way. I've had it in my mind since the beginning. And like it's impossible to make an ending that everybody will like.
Right.
It's not possible. And I know some people are not going to be satisfied or happy with it, that kind of thing. I worry maybe irrationally that people are going to be really mad. Like I worry for a lot of different things in hand plays that people are going to be really mad at me for what happens. But in the end, I think as Malice told me, and I try to tell myself, is that in the end, like hand plates is a story that I essentially made for me. Like I didn't make it with any
Mhm.
kind of intention of becoming popular or impressing people or having any kind of outsized influence or doing anything or think that I made hand plates because it was a story I wanted to make. It was a story
Right.
I wanted to tell because it made me happy and I enjoyed doing it. And
That's the
to
best way
that
to look at
end,
it, honestly.
yeah, and in the end I've got to end it the way that I want to end it. And I've always meant to end it. So I'm just gonna do that. And
Yeah,
you have to be true to
It, it
you have to be true to your own vision, I guess is the
it's a
idea
work of
behind it.
art, you know.
Yeah. Because what was it like you can't please everybody. That's just the fact of it.
yeah,
And
you just can't.
yeah,
And
it's and it's hard to like internalize that, um, especially if
Hmm.
you're very scared about people being mad at you. But it's one of the
Absolutely.
things I do think about as we're coming to the end, and all these years been leading up to this point. And that I've been leading up to this point. I've set it up. I feel like it's going to go the way that I thought it was, and I guess we'll see if people find it satisfying or not. Not sure, but I know that when I do finish it, it will be a satisfying accomplishment for me personally. Because again, I've never done a project like this before. I've never seen one through this long. I've never followed through on something for this long that was this complicated that involved this much work, and to actually finish it would just be a remarkable accomplishment for me. Like that'd be, something I haven't done before, and I don't know if it'd be something I'd be able to do again. But if I do finish it,
Mhm.
that'd be very cool.
yeah,
It would be quite the
Exciting
feather
times
in my
ahead.
cap, as they say.
That's
Sorry, what were
awesome.
you gonna say?
Indeed.
Yeah, but I guess we'll see how it goes.
Yeah.
yeah. Uh, uh, all right. We got the questions. We touched on a lot of these.
We did.
Mhm.
We did.
I have a question.
Mhm.
It's like, so it's about the eye glowing,
Mhm.
which um it's very unique. Also, the idea of colors portraying emotions um in, inspired me in making one of my own OCs, who I haven't done anything with, but that's beside the point.
Mhm.
um, so, like, where did you like? Not necessarily where did you get the idea, but like, what made you decide? Yeah, I want to have this in my comic. I really like this idea.
I actually remember this fairly clearly. I was talking with my friend Jazz again, as I mentioned. Me and Jazz we were talking constantly about Undertale all the time. We like digging into little details and stuff like that. And,
Right.
we noticed that at that point, like people were drawing Sans and his eye was always glowing, like pretty much all the time. It was always blue,
Uh huh.
and so we ended up we were digging through little details and stuff like that, and we ended up watching the battle with Sans, and I was watching, I was paying attention to the glowing, and I was like, hey, wait, he doesn't actually glow blue. He glows several colors. And she was like, hey, wait, you're right. And when you look at it, he glows yellow and blue. He just rapidly flashes between those two colors.
Yeah.
And we were like, I wonder why he does that. And I forget which one of us suggested it, but we were like, what if those colors are like a warning, or they mean he's freaking out? Like, what if the eye glowing is related to his emotional state and not the power of his magic? I was like, yeah. And what if the colors mean different things? You're like, yeah. And what if each color corresponds to this? And and we've like batted that back and forth. And then it ended up in like the first comic I did about the idea, which is not Handplates related. It was just Sans Papyrus talking about eye glowing. And they were just like, oh, yeah, it's an emotional thing. It conveys your mood because Sans' mouth doesn't move. So, he's always smiling. So you have to have another way to convey emotion. And me and Jess were like, yeah, that makes total sense. And so,
Right.
so we both worked out the theory. And then when it came, then I liked that theory. So I ended up having it keep popping up into different things. I thought it was cool. And so when Handplates came around, I was like, yeah, I'm just going to do that again. That'll be great. Because I think in the first comic, they're actually glowing. Like, aren't they? I think in their little, when they're remembering, I think they are. Yeah, they are. I'm pretty, because that's right. They glow pink because when the kid surprises them. Oh, that's when they were blushing the wrong colors too. I ended up changing my mind on a few things, on a few details, but the eye glowing stayed pretty consistent. But that ended up just being me and Jazz like lore building back and forth about why Sansa's eye flashes different colors instead of just glowing one color. It was I don't know. It was just one of those little details that kind of gets distorted through fandom over time, because just one version or interpretation of it just gets carried through. There was one where I remember one person was trying to, what's the word? They were trying to show me up with Undertale trivia at one point. They were like, "You're not a real Undertale fan. Tell me 5 of their albums," that kind of thing. So,
Yeah.
but they were like, "Well, if you really know about Undertale, then what color is Papyrus's magic?"
Oh
And I
my
was like,
gosh.
"It's blue, obviously." But the thing is, throughout the fandom, Papyrus is heavily associated with orange
Right.
and red, and that carries through him so much that some people just naturally assume his color magic is orange or red,
Right.
but it's not. It's blue. Like those kind of things. Like those little things carry on through fandom in a way. Like and one of those was like Sansa's eye always glows blue, but it doesn't.
Right.
It flashes different colors, which is fun. And like I made the color chart, but I didn't fill it. I didn't completely fill it out because I didn't want to come up with like all the colors being
Fair
different
enough.
things. I just did the ones that I needed, and I still don't actually haven't decided on what blue and orange mean. Even though that's their colors. Like,
That's
I know
funny.
the other colors, but I don't know what those specifically mean. But,
Right.
And
they were
it could
there.
mean different things to different people or in different contexts as well. So
Yeah, that's what I liked about the eye glowing idea is that each glow doesn't have a specifically like one meaning. Like the context changes the meaning of them. Like, God, I forget what color. I don't know, like I think like green could be used for healing, which that comes from the game. But it also means green could also be happiness, or if green in a bad context can be like smugness, something like that. Like I like coming up with like negative and positive connotations for each color, which is fun. And I remember people asking me like why Gaster didn't glow purple, because red and orange, I guess, or red and yellow, you know what I mean? It makes orange or makes purple. But I was like, no, he glows yellow, and they were like, why? And I was like, just seemed like the color he'd glow. That's really why I chose yellow, is because it just seemed like the right color for him to glow.
That's fair.
So that's why
fair.
he glows that color. Although it also is the color of stress, so it kind of fits. But then, that was the side effect. But I like coming up with little lore details like that. It's fun. Like lore spinning like that is always a lot of fun, especially with friends you can do it with. Then you can work out details really easily.
Yeah.
It does help develop the characters in the world very, very deeply.
Yeah, it's fun. World building is great.
Absolutely.
I love world building so much.
Yeah, it's fun. One of the best, like one of the real fun parts of writing a story is world building.
Yeah, so fun that a lot of the time people are just like people make all these like cool systems and talk about all these cool lands and stuff, and their lands or places in their worlds that they create, and then someone asks, okay, but what's the actual story behind it, and they just go quiet.
Yeah, exactly. World building is fun, but you got to actually use the stuff that you're making up for the most part. Or at least have it in like important places like architecture or stuff like that. Like and you have to actually figure out a reason for it to be in the story. But it's like world building is easy compared to actually writing a story or coming up with a plot. that kind of thing. Lots are hard.
I feel that so much.
This personally speaks to me. That me.
Writing a story is hard. People think it's easy, but it's not. It's hard.
No.
Yeah.
Particularly a
Well.
story like so long, particularly a long story.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Long but satisfying.
People are always surprised that it's still going, and it's like, I'm gonna keep going until it's done.
There's a lot to get to.
Sunk cost fallacy, guys. I'm too deep into it.
Yeah, if I could have done pages like faster or like shorter, then it'd probably be a lot further in the story than it is now. But like, I just kind of like making a page like a single scene. That's why I was structured my script so it could be like a self-contained scene, and it didn't have to spread it over multiple ones. I was annoyed when I have to do that though. Sometimes I do have to do that, because there's no way, because sometimes scripts get too long. But like I like having them as a scene, and then as it like. And I think like what ended up having me be in color is that their flashbacks in the first comic were in color, and then being a doofus for the first one, I thought I'll do that in color too for the second comic, and that was it. I sentenced myself to doing it in color.
Yeah.
It's like until the kid fell, but like it was like I set it up with color. I can't go back now. Like, I got to keep going until the kid falls, and then I can go back to black and white.
Yeah.
Which does make it a little quicker. But,
it is a little spookier and reminds me of the Grey Gaster followers and everything.
Yes. The Gaster followers are fun. I got so many questions about them. Like, where are they coming in? What happened to them? What are they? Where are they? It always amused me because I knew what they were. I knew where they were going to come in, but they were only going to be around for like a comic. Like, I knew that originally. It was like you build your hopes up for the followers, but they're not going to do much. Like, they're just extensions of Gaster. They're not actually their own characters, but I couldn't say that.
It's no secret that I love the Gaster followers, considering my name is Goner Boy.
Yeah, they're great. I love them.
But
they're fun to draw. It was interesting to have to interpret a few of them. Like the bird face one was really tricky, actually, because I do think it's like it looks like a bird or a face, depending on how you look at it. And I know in Deltarune they made it a bird, but I still kind of see it as a face.
It's totally an optical illusion.
Yeah.
So trying to draw that
Good
in
old
different
Sheldon.
angles and like with different expressions was very tricky, but I think it came out all right.
Do we know who designed the Gaster followers actually?
I don't think so.
I'd assume Toby did, because a few of them are just reworked sprites, so they're recolored sprites, except for the face.
Yeah. With how they can be detailed like that, I'm just like. I'm just like I really want to just give a like hand to those designers and stuff, because that's
like the followers are fun to interpret.
Yeah,
absolutely.
I liked having the cat followers face melting. That was fun.
It's fun to see how different artists interpret them in different ways.
Yeah. Yes. I thought somebody was like, I thought the Goner kid had a bow. And I was like, I thought they were spikes, but nobody's gonna be able to say for sure.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, yeah, they're just because you look at it, the original, and they're just pixels. Like they can be interpreted as a bow or as spikes, or I don't know, some other like horns of some, I don't know, but yeah.
Yeah, there was the one, I guess, follower-related one I couldn't do with the Clam Girl who talks about Susie, but I was pretty sure that Clam Girl got added in the Switch port, I think.
Clam Girl
existed,
but then the Goner version was added.
Yeah, in the one point, because I assume that was foreshadowing for Deltarune. So,
yeah.
It's specifically important to Handplates that it takes place in the first version of Undertale before it was patched, because that one has the typo that makes it so the fun values don't work for Gaster unless you specifically go into the game files and change it. So the only way you can see Gaster stuff in the first version is by physically going in and manually editing the files. And that's specifically relevant to Handplates.
Interesting.
That ties into the greater theme of it. I'm not sure how many people know that. It's a little random piece of trivia, but it's one that I've always thought was really interesting.
That's very neat.
Like
I have to keep that in mind going forward.
Yeah, like back in the day, like back a million years ago, but back in the early days of the Undertale thing, like the rumors about Gaster are flying around everywhere, and nobody really knew too much about Gaster. But and I remember like one of the things I remember about it was that you can only see Gaster if you change values in the file, which I thought was really cool. I thought that was a really
Mhm.
neat way to hide secret things in a game. And then it turned out in the patch they were like, "That was a typo, sorry." Like you were always supposed to be able to see his Gaster stuff. Like we just made a mistake. And so now you can. Like now you can see Gaster stuff
Right.
like naturally playing the game. But originally you had to change the fun value and you had to capitalize it, I think.
Right.
You either had to capitalize it or uncapitalize it. I forget which
I
one,
think
but it was one
I
of
think it
those.
is to capitalize it, but I'm not sure.
Yeah. But you had to do one of those to see Gaster stuff, which I always thought was really cool. So that's actually a thing in Handplates. That's an important thematic thing. But
Nice.
I'm not sure how many people picked up on that, but it'll probably get more obvious.
I did
Possibly in the
notice
start.
it did show them capitalizing it in
Yes.
one of the recent updates.
Yeah.
But yeah, I guess the implications of that are still yet to be fully explored.
That's very that's relevant that they did that. But it's interesting because I have some people that told me they read Handplays not playing the game. So at this point, like when it starts getting to like editing the code and stuff like that, they're really confused.
Oh
They're
yeah.
just like, I don't understand. What does that mean? What's going on?
Undertale.ini.
And it's like, I'm sorry, it's very hard to explain if you haven't played the game. I know some people who didn't play the game who read the comic, which is really flattering, but at the same time, it's like it's a game about the comic. Like I'm gonna reference game stuff. Like I'm sorry, but you have to play the game to get some of this stuff.
Exactly.
Yeah. It was always one of those interesting little bits of Undertale trivia I got together. I also got to use the alternate Gaster sprite when they find in the room, which is also a lot of fun. Because I never see that thing. Like I've seen it a few times, but like very rarely. So it was a lot of fun to be able to tie those sprites together. I'm not sure how many people actually picked up on that. Yeah. I know a few people have picked it up on that, but not a lot of people. But it was still fun. I was glad some people catched it. That was fun. There are like a lot of little details like that it's neat to throw in and have people pick up on. It's very satisfying.
Absolutely.
Little in-jokes for people in the know.
Yes.
Hey, have you found all the Black Mesa symbols yet? They're like
There's a lot
hidden
of those.
Mickeys in Disney rides.
I think I made a list once of things that now canonically exist in the Handplates universe just because I put references them in places and like Half-Life, Metroid, Star Control 2, like there was something else. Hassie. So from Ill Bleed. There's like a bunch of little random things that now exist in the Handplates world because I toss them in there. Like all the science books that Sans reads at one point are also all in jokes as well. There's a lot of those.
Oh, that's so cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the authors. If you check those books' authors, they're all references. Like one of them is written by Freeman. He writes about quantum physics. So, like Dr.
Resonance Cascades and
Yeah, exactly. Because Half-Life is a thing in Undertale, or at least in Handplates. And Nerve from Evangelion, because Nerve mug at one point. That's right. Almost forgot about that one.
Yeah,
that's really fun.
A lot of the time, if for some reason some people decide to check out my stores after this, firstly, thank you so much. Thank you for giving me your precious limited time on this little spec. But but yeah, I took a lot of influences from Evangelion while writing my Undertale stories, and I'm still going to be taking some influences going forward because Evangelion just had that big an impact on me, and I am very excited to watch 3.0 plus 1.0 this coming August because we'll finally get to see how the rebuilds end, and it's apparently supposed to be the best rebuild film from all the people who did actually get to see it early, and I'm really excited. I know I'm going to be confused because it's Evangelion, but I know I'm still gonna like it.
Yeah, it should be neat.
Well. We've been going for like 2 hours.
Wow.
Yeah, I guess we have.
Is it about time to wrap up?
Yeah, and I mean, unless you have any other questions you want to ask.
Any last
let me
minute
look.
questions?
Let me look through the list.
I did kind of just vomit a bunch of questions onto the question.
I mean,
That's
you
fine.
have
I like
you
talking
have
about
asked a
places.
lot of them.
Yeah.
And we
So
have also inadvertently answered a lot of them too.
Yeah.
We're just that freaking good.
Oh, I just wanted to mention something I thought was really funny was your annoyance at the red couch.
Oh yeah, the red couch.
The red couch.
That's an in joke.
The red couch.
like-
What's going on with the red couch?
Oh, like ever? I can't even remember how long ago I've been doing this. Probably at least as long as I can remember. So whenever I draw characters on a couch, whenever I color it, I always default to red. I don't know why,
Huh.
but like it would always end up on a red couch, and I didn't notice this until somebody pointed it out. They were like, every time you draw a couch, it's red. Why is that? And I was like, I don't know. Now you mentioned it, I have no idea. And then every time, even still, when I draw a couch, my first instinct is to make it red. And like it's the same thing where I draw characters sleeping on each other. Every time I just do it without thinking about it. And then it's like, I did it again. I can't believe it. So people joke about the red couch because I just keep doing it. And it would be in Handplates, except the brother's couch is canonically green, so
Right.
I can't make it red. But I'm very tempted to make it red every time I have to color it. But I ended up making like a folder for all the red
Is the couch that they
pictures.
sleep on at the beginning where Frisk finds their plates, is that the red couch?
In spirit,
canonically?
it is. Like
Yeah.
in spirit, it is.
Yeah.
Like
What we don't understand is that Zarla has inadvertently making the red couch a universal constant. So
isn't it like there's things that I always draw, and it's that red couch, and there's people sleeping on each other. Like
The
at
red
some
couch
point,
is
and
an
I'll never know I
inevitability.
did it until I've already done it. And I'll be like,
That's
dang
awesome.
Handplates
Again.
red couch AU. No,
don't
that'd be
Everything's the exact same except for the skeleton couch is red.
Man,
I'm
it'd
sure,
be
like,
the easiest AU ever made. Just like change the change the colors of a background object once in a while.
Yeah. Just have to like color change the couch. Oh, now that it's in black and white, you can just imagine the couch is red.
Yeah.
Exactly. That's
What if,
awesome.
like, no, everything in Asgore's house is gray, so he doesn't have a
Hmm.
couch. That's right. Like
That's
he's
true.
kind of missing on a bunch of furniture. I had to spend so
Yeah,
much
if
time
you
spending
think
the layout
about
of
it,
his
it's
house.
just like
It's so frustrating.
they don't have a TV or anything like that.
He's got some books.
Good point.
Wait,
Yep.
does he? Toriel does. I don't know. His house is very empty, which I'm sure is just
Mhm.
because there wasn't space for sprites. But still,
Right.
it's a little striking. It kind of fits Asgore himself. But the same way, it's like drained of color compared to Toriel's house.
Right.
It's a nice visual symbolism.
Going
Poor
back in
Asgore.
time.
Everyone just so sad all the time.
Mhm.
Well, they were happy
This-
for a brief second, and then the kid ruined it.
This song is called.
Oh my god, she does! Like, sorry, Yamina just brought up that Alphys has a red couch. She's sitting on
my
a red couch in her
God.
house. She is. I forgot about that. Oh my god. I told you, this happens every time.
The song
That's so funny.
the Handplates has a certain song that always can go with it. It's called this. It's called the song is very very is called I am so very very sad. So sad. Thank you all so much.
Wow.
Thank you, Scott Pilgrim.
I wanna say, I think you were the one that did, or no, I could be misremembering this.
Mhm.
Someone did a comic of Papyrus playing Wonderwall.
Yes, that was me.
Ah!
That was so funny.
Wait,
I thought
what's
it was you.
Wonderwall?
Oh, it's
It's
that
like,
old. Oh shoot. Who did it? It's the same people that did Champagne Supernova, I think. Oh my god. No, it's not Duran Duran. I forget. Wonderwall said, "Wonderful" is a song that is widely derided because it's very easy to play on a guitar. So,
Mhm.
like,
yeah,
it's very common for a guy to walk into a guitar store, sit down, and just start playing Wonderwall because it's
yeah.
really easy to play, so they can
Play
look cool.
Wonderwall.
And then you whip
It's-
out a guitar at a party and play Wonderwall because again, it's easy to do. So
Yeah.
I forget what brought it on. I think like the Wonderwall came on, and I just the idea of Papyrus playing it was hilarious. So I just ended up doing it. It's so good. I've done so many Undertale comics, I can't remember half of them at this point. There's too many. There's too many.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
That's the one about the flying eggs too.
Oh yeah. I
Also the
remember
fuzzy
that.
skeletons one.
Yeah, that kind of took on a life of its own. I did not intend that.
Skeleton tails.
Yeah, the tails was also a little joke. I forget where that came from too. The Cossacks. But
I'm sure there's gonna be like someone in the comments being like, actually, if you look back a couple of pages and in this blog post that you made explaining yourself back in 2017, you will totally see that you explained the tales. And
entirely
with,
possible, actually.
yeah,
Like I drew Gaster with a tail once. The fuzzing is stuck around because I think fuzzing is in the ghost too. So like, because people asked me to put fuzzing in the Gaster ghost, and I was like, all right.
Yeah.
I'll do it.
Yeah, it's like all right, it's cute. Although I know some of you think it's creepy, but which is fair. But you know,
Yeah.
it just amused me. I like drawing fuzzy things. You mentioned with Asgore, I just like drawing fluffy, fuzzy things. It's a
Yeah,
lot of
just
fun.
just like there were so many times when we were reading the story, it's just like, look at how big and fuzzy his hand is compared to to how small Gaster's hand
Oh.
is, or the
Asgore's
Skeleton
so fluffy.
Bros.
I love it.
I
He's got this
loved-
giant beard and his big ears.
Yeah.
Fluffy,
Yes.
so fluffy.
Very
No.
fluffy.
The
I also
Brewer
love how
family
big
is
you
my
make his
favorite
hands.
characters in Undertale canon. So yeah, that
Asgore canonically has giant hands.
Yes, he is. And he gives
I remember-
really big, and he also gives very big and enthusiastic bear hugs,
He does.
Mhm.
which apparently
great.
Chris doesn't like all that much.
Yeah, it's great. Oh, goat dad. So fluffy. No.
Alrighty.
So yeah, I think we're gonna wrap this up. We got one more question. This is the last question. This is kind of the question that we like to end our streams on.
Oh yes.
Mhm.
How do you feel about your current standing in the Undertale fandom?
I like, to be honest, I don't think about it that much because if I think about how many people are looking at me at any given point, I start freaking out. Like, there's too many.
How
Like,
how many? Wait, how many people are how many people are watching?
Well, I was
are
like, I mean, like I was like I was worried about this kind of thing. Like, I mean, I look at the like the Handplates dub, you know, like the Handplates movie part 1 or something like that. It's got millions of views. That's too many. Like, there are people looking at me. Like, it's like if you get an awareness of how many people are watching what you do at any given point in time, it freaks you out. Like, it can get very stressful. Like, because you start worrying about making them mad, or you worry about their thinking, or you worry about impressing them or satisfying them or something like that, and the pressure can just get in your head. So I try not to think about it. Like, I don't look at numbers. Like, I don't look at my follower count. I don't look at likes on anything I make. I read comments, but I don't watch likes or favorites or anything like that because it freaks me out. There's too many numbers, and like if I think too much about numbers, I start getting nervous, and
Understandable.
you
But-
you
so-
realize how many people are actually like looking forward to what's gonna happen in your story. You're just like, oh, I don't want to disappoint them.
Yeah, exactly. Like I said, the pressure is on. I mean, it's great to get a lot of response. I love seeing comments. I love seeing people respond to it. There's still there's still pressure, of course, but like but I don't think too much about um like what people like what my standing or power or influence in any given place really is. It's just I tend to think of it as like I'm making this stuff. People seem to like it for some reason. I'm gonna keep making it till I want to make something different, and then I'm just gonna do that. And then I mostly keep to myself, and that generally keeps my fandom experience very low stress, which it's actually pretty it's supposed to be fun. Fandom stuff's supposed to be fun, and just sitting in a small keeping to myself, talking with friends of mine, just doing what I want to do, keeps it very low stress, which I appreciate.
That's awesome.
I do it do it for fun, just to enjoy stuff.
Yeah.
So the idea
That's
of
the way
being
to
some
do it.
kind of ambassador or a spokesperson for the fandom is very weird to me. That doesn't feel very real. It still doesn't feel very. When I look at the views on that video, they don't feel real. I look at it and I'm like, well, somebody else must have drawn these pages or written this because there can't be this many views of something I made. That can't be right.
There is no way, no way. A little nobody like me has so many people watching their stuff.
Yeah, one of the things I think about every now and then is like when I was little, I was like a standard little fangirl. I was young and I was really excitable and I was probably very annoying and I couldn't draw and I couldn't really write and and I had artists and stuff that I looked up to that I thought were really cool. And I'd pester them a little bit, and then whenever they gave me any kind of recognition, it blew my mind. I was like, "Wow, I'm just some random dork, and you actually you actually looked at me. You actually think I'm cool." And to this very day, apparently got a whole bunches of people looking at my stuff, but at heart, I still feel kind of like just a dork, like anybody else in a fandom who's just doing stuff by themselves. I don't feel very special or very like a superstar or anything like that. I'm still just like some dork who's a big fan of something, and I make stuff for that thing. So
Yeah,
I don't think I just carry that with me. I think. So,
Honestly,
no, Gunnar, you go first.
Oh no, I was just gonna say I think that's a really good way of looking at it because it's really nice to just be able to hang out with people and be able to talk about a thing that common interests that you enjoy with people.
Yeah, it's great. I saw a post where it was like, best way to do fandom is get a group of your friends that are into the fandom and just talk to them. And don't talk to anybody else.
That's honestly how this podcast came about.
Yeah.
Yeah, just was like, I want to make a corner and stuff that only people that I have interest in come into.
Yeah. Hopefully this podcast was a nice experience of just being able to chill and talk about things because that's kind of the goal here.
Yeah. I like talking about handplates. It's fun. I put way too much thought into it, as you can probably tell.
Just gonna say, if you have the contact information of any other popular Undertale comic creators, that would be really great for our show. Totally not chilling. Please subscribe.
Pasta, get away from your microphone.
I got away from it. Jeez.
Wow.
And I think it's important to just keep in mind that you're just a person like anybody else.
Absolutely.
No matter how many people are watching you, you're still just a person.
Even with this podcast and stuff, it's just I just have the feeling like, yeah, lots of people are watching this and all that, but I'm just going. But once this is over and stuff, and I have this all posted, I'm just gonna I'm just gonna go and just walk down. Just gonna walk away from my desk, maybe play some games, eat dinner and all that, just as I would before I started doing this stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, when we leave, I'm just gonna go and eat some mac and cheese and.
I'm playing through Mario World right now, so I'm probably gonna. I just got to the special world, so I'm gonna try and go play through that. So yeah.
Yeah.
But anyways.
It's been great having you. Super nice to be able to talk to the creator of Handplates, because this is an amazingly put together story, and it's cool to see all the internal thought processes that go behind these things.
Yeah, it was really interesting to talk with you.
Yeah, I'd like to, when it's over, I'll probably do some kind of like a post-mortem, and I'll explain like some more of my thoughts about various things, but, I'd prefer it, like, generally prefer it if people took them in with the whole story as a whole, instead of like just in pieces. But, when I get to that point, we'll see.
Yeah.
We'll see how it goes.
Yeah.
So yeah, thank you so much, Zarla, for coming to us. It was a pleasure to have you here.
Yeah.
And thank you, Cupcake, as always, and thank you, Connor. You were a very good co-host for the first.
Thank you.
Give Connor a round of applause.
And
thank you.
Yeah, it was fun. Thanks for having me.
For those who are just watching this and aren't who somehow haven't heard of Zarla or Handplates before, you can check the description below to go check that stuff out. Links. And as for the Determined podcast ourselves, well, again, I'm just like, next time, not really sure what we're going to have on next.
Yep. Next time we're looking for another guest. That's what we're doing next time.
We really need to plan these out more. Just like at least like.
I have an idea, but we'll see. We'll see.
I have an idea too.
Well, we all have ideas for guests, but we'll see who we get. So yeah, thank you all for watching. Have yourselves a great night. Take care, and remember, stay determined.
Stay determined.
Yeah.
And we'll see you all next time.